Honorable Minister, respected guest of honor, respected Joint Secretary, other dignitaries on the dais, and my dear friends. It's an absolute privilege and an honor to be presenting my thoughts and the thoughts of Ola Mobility Institute on the mobility economy in front of this kind of an august audience. I'm Aishwarya Raman, Associate Director and Head of Research at Ola Mobility Institute. We are a young team of urban planners, developmental scientists, sociologists, economists, developing knowledge frameworks at the intersection of mobility innovation and public good. I'm an MSc in Sociology from the University of Oxford, UK. I've been associated with the mobility industry for close to a decade now. The last 4 years have been spent at Ola. I started off as an entrepreneur myself, running a mobility startup in the city of Chennai. Through the course of this presentation, I hope to unbundle, demystify the promise of shared, connected, and electric mobility for India. We shall cover the changing mobility ethos, the shifting paradigms of mobility, if you may, both at the global and at the India levels. The India mobility opportunity that we have in front of us, mobility startups and their rise, the urban issues that they're resolving, the growth of mobility startups and the creation of the mobility economy thereof, and finally, a brief commentary on the future of mobility. With that context established, let's get started. The very definition of mobility is changing today. The ubiquity of smartphones has given birth to a variety of on-demand mobility services ranging from ride-hailing and ride-sharing to car-sharing, bike-sharing, smart parking, on-demand delivery, clean tech, electrification, autonomous mobility, multimodal integration, connected vehicles, infotainment, insurance, and more. This is not only fueled by the changing consumption patterns that we witness all around us, but also by the increasing access to risk capital. As of early 2019, as much as $60 billion were invested in mobility startups the world over. World's leading unicorns are mobility companies. There are as many as 15 mobility unicorns in not just the developed markets, but also in emerging economies. What has changed? What is fueling this kind of change? Traditionally, we've had three mobility choices in front of us. Our private or personal vehicles in the form of two-wheelers and four-wheelers, provided to us typically by automakers and dealers. Public transport, typically offered by government agencies. And intermediate public transport in the form of auto rickshaws, rickshaws, and taxis, provided to us by independent businesses and owners. What is changing today is indeed the increasingly easily available data. There is a new form of and concept of vehicle ownership. And finally, there is concerted regulatory push to reduce vehicular emissions. This is not only plaguing and positively affecting, if I may, the mobility domain, but this has also given birth to collaborative and sharing economy in other domains as well, such as real estate, for instance, exemplified by OYO and Airbnb. In media streaming as well, in the form of Netflix and Prime Video, goods and services as well in the form of Rent-A-Mojo, Flyro. If you were to follow me, as I read out this quote from a global vehicle manufacturer, quote, "Don't assume we're always going to be in the car business. The notion is you don't have to have ownership of a vehicle. You just want to get from point A to point B." Indeed, this is the foundation of the rise of the collaborative economy, where it is not ownership of the asset that matters, but access to the asset. We have, in fact, already started the transition from ownership of the drive to ownership of the ride. This is something that our automotive industry actors are quite aware of, quite cognizant of. It is estimated that by 2035, the profit pools for the automotive industry is in fact going to come from data and connectivity as well as on-demand mobility services. This would in fact bring to the fore and IT companies and telecom companies that are going to be an active contributor to the value chain of the automotive industry as well. With that, we shall now look at the India scenario. Mobility is the next economic revolution. India is the new frontier. I repeat, mobility is the next economic revolution. India is the new frontier. In other words, the key opportunity in front of us today in India is mobility. India is uniquely positioned to ride on this wave of shared mobility. We already have extremely low penetration of personal vehicles. The personal vehicle density is as sort of low as 30 to 40 vehicles per 1,000 individuals. Shared mobility further is already highly utilized in India. Public transport, including taxi cabs and autos, as well as non-motorized transport, account for 55% of all trips in the country. Therefore, coupled with low car ownership, India is well positioned for a mobility transformation. At the same time, we have to be cognizant of the challenges that we face in urban agglomerations. There is an increasing demand for parking. Road accidents and fatalities too are a cause of concern. There is an increasing cost of congestion, which is not only affecting our productivity, but it's also causing socio-economic and health-related issues. Lastly, there is an increase in vehicular emissions. Mobility startups in India are betting on connected, autonomous, shared, and electrified mobility in order to address these concerns. A survey conducted by Ola Mobility Institute 1.5 years ago found that 72% of Indians, in fact, actively want city and state agencies to improve first and last mile connectivity to public transport. And this is where digitalized mobility could play an important role. This survey was conducted across 20 Tier 1, 2, and 3 cities, and we spoke to as many as 43,500 individuals, both in an online and an offline fashion. The study looked at all aspects of mobility and was published in a report titled The Ease of Moving Index, released in the month November of the year 2018. That brings us to understand much more closely and deeply what shared mobility is doing in India. The emergence, like I said, and the ubiquity of smartphones has ensured that the mobility choices that we have in front of us have in fact exploded. So we have public bicycle sharing today, we have bike taxi, bike pool, bike rental solutions, there are auto rickshaws that are available on demand, there are cabs catering to all kinds of users, those that are extremely affordable, those that are extremely luxurious as well. There are pooling services in order to ensure that maximization of utilization happens. There are electric vehicles that are, again, available to Indians on a mobile app today. Let us also look at what Ola, India's mobility unicorn, is doing. Ola is one of the world's largest ride-hailing, ride-sharing platforms. It employs and engages over 2 million driver partners. It employs 7,000 individuals across 4 countries and is present in over 250 cities. It completes over 1 billion rides annually. The story of Ola started as early as 2011, at the beginning of last decade. The company was founded by Bhavesh and Ankit, both graduates from IIT Bombay. Within a few months of launch, India was able to see the first mobile app for real-time cab booking. In 2014, auto rickshaws were launched on the Ola app. In 2016, the Honorable Prime Minister launched e-rickshaws on the platform. The same year, we also saw connected cars on the rise in the form of Ola Play. In the summer of 2017, India saw its first multimodal electric mobility initiative launched in the city of Nagpur. Later in the year, Ola also acquired Foodpanda and later Riddler, which is a public transport ticketing and commuting app. Pretty soon, Ola began its expansion into international waters, and its first foray was in Australia, followed by launches in New Zealand and the UK. The last few months, we in the Indian startup ecosystem also witnessed Ola, a unicorn, giving birth to a baby unicorn in the form of Ola Electric. We also saw Ola expanding its financial services portfolio late in the 2019 year. What is also unique and beautiful about startups in India is that we are able to develop and customize solutions catering to the needs and aspirations of the local communities of which we are a part. Therefore, it is not surprising to see that the driver partner app that Ola runs is available in over 9 Indian languages. There's also comprehensive in-trip insurance available to all driver partners associated with the platform. Similarly, artificial intelligence and machine learning is being used in order to enhance road and ride safety. Ola Guardian is a real-time customer ride monitoring system launched by Ola, now available in all the metropolitan cities. We also have 2G optimization to enable seamless booking experience. There is offline booking options in order to enable bookings in low connectivity areas, comprehensive in-trip insurance for all consumers, as well as multiple payment options catering to different users. One cannot emphasize enough the benefits of shared mobility. By maximizing asset utilization and services, shared mobility is able to increase the remunerative opportunities of the owners and drivers of these vehicles. Shared mobility is the champion of electrification and clean mobility in India, and we will see why this case is so in the slides to come. Shared mobility, by improving the connectivity to public transport, is helping reinvent public transport. It is also helping in decongesting and unclogging cities by pooling people together and by also disincentivizing the usage of private personal vehicles. By using big data analytics and mobility, shared mobility is able to help cities improve their decision making. It promotes entrepreneurship of varying sizes and scales. And of course, shared mobility helps reduce emissions and make cities more livable. The platform of Ola Share alone, between the years 2015, the year of its inception, till January 2019, was able to save over 37 million liters of import-dependent fossil fuel, thereby starting to pave the way for India to become energy secure, and also reduced carbon dioxide emissions by over 63 million kilograms. Studies estimate that by the year 2030, India's new mobility market alone would be worth USD 90 billion. This mobility market, the new mobility market, is on-demand, technology-enabled. It has a whole range of services available to you, right from traditional vehicle sharing, P2P vehicle sharing, corporate sharing, mobility as a service, taxi services, and more. I would also like to spend a few minutes to talk about electric mobility and its relevance to not just India in order to make India more livable, but also the contribution it's making to the economy. Electric mobility is sustainable, decarbonizing, and efficient, and holds tremendous promise and potential for India. By reducing the reliance on import-dependent fossil fuel, e-mobility is helping India become energy secure. It reduces emissions, increases clean kilometers that we travel, and makes Indian cities more livable. It promotes renewable energy production and integration. It spurs innovation in local R&D and manufacturing, and gives a huge boost to India's Make in India opportunity and initiative. E-mobility helps augment skills and jobs, promotes entrepreneurship, and helps India change the global automobile and energy landscape. Is there evidence to all these benefits? Absolutely. Ola launched India's first multimodal electric mobility project in collaboration with and in support of the central and state governments as well as other industry actors in the city of Nagpur 2 summers ago. It deployed a fleet of 200 electric rickshaws and electric cars, set up public charging stations, invested in setting up solar rooftops, thereby creating a demand for renewable energy as well. It also was responsible in converting India's first fuel pump into an electric charging station as well. It's also installed private charging points for driver partners at their residences, in addition to setting up extremely unique charging paradigm called battery swapping stations, battery swapping services in the city of Nagpur. Like I mentioned, there are 200 electric vehicles in the form of electric cars and rickshaws deployed in the city of Nagpur. Within a year and a half of launch, the platform was able to cater to over 350,000 customers, clocked over 75 lakh clean kilometers, saved over 5.7 lakh liters of import-dependent fossil fuel, and reduced carbon dioxide emissions by over 1,230 tons. We at Ola Mobility Institute were able to crystallize the key learnings of the analysis of this first of its kind operations in India, and were also able to derive a set of learnings and lessons for the entire ecosystem. This is in a way immortalized in our report called Beyond Nagpur, published early last year. One of the key aspects that we analyzed was the techno-economic feasibility of this new form of mobility in India. So we looked at the cost of operating charging stations. Two of the key cost components here are electricity tariff and land lease rentals. And this is where we see an active role being played by government and government agencies in order to promote EV startups. So by announcing and sort of implementing specified and subsidized EV tariffs, we would be able to reduce the cost of managing electric vehicle charging centers across the country. Similarly, subsidized land too would be a huge boost, especially in urban areas where access to land itself is a huge challenge. Some of the learnings that we've had from analyzing India's first multimodal electric mobility project in Nagpur are as follows. One, we've strongly believed that the success of e-mobility is hinged on leveraging shared mobility. Fleet operators, such as public transit agencies, employee transportation, shared mobility actors, logistics services, all of them are uniquely positioned to manage the idiosyncrasies of going electric. They're able to recover the upfront costs at a much shorter time compared to private owners of electric vehicles. Therefore, we argue that shared mobility is going to be the champion and the early adopter of electric mobility, and this, in fact, is the economic opportunity available for India. Similarly, based on the TCO calculations that we've done, we found that smaller vehicle segments such as two-wheelers and three-wheelers are able to achieve TCO parity much faster than four-wheelers. Therefore, ensuring that there is vehicle segment prioritization as India electrifies would be another boost for us. Financial viability in terms of TCO parity as part of EV promotional policies is key in order to ensure we have sunset clauses in these promotional policies. This would ensure that the burden on the exchequer is also low, and we would have the public money being spent in wise projects. We also strongly see that the incentives that government agencies give us should be on the usage, should be in terms of increasing the usage of electric vehicles and not merely limited to the purchase of EVs. This would naturally promote the electrification of high utilization vehicles. Last two recommendations are around fiscal incentives. Fiscal incentives should be designed to specifically subsidize the one cost that makes EVs expensive, batteries. We all know that the batteries constitute as much as 50 to 70% of the cost of the electric vehicle. Thereby, by subsidizing batteries, we would be able to also create a Make in India opportunity for batteries, increase the demand for batteries, and also increase the demand for EVs in general. We've also found that battery swapping, which is a form of charging, which hasn't been extremely successful in the developed markets, is in fact a viable charging solution for India. And we'll see more about that in just a bit. So what OMI, Ola Mobility Institute, was able to do was bring industry actors, think tanks, government agencies together for a policy dialogue, and we were able to derive a set of benefits of battery swapping and also a series of recommendations thereof. This was India's first shared resolution on battery swapping, signed in the month of May last year. So what OMI and its collaborators believe is that battery swapping will be able to propel India's EV dreams. We've seen in Nagpur, of course, that battery swapping is a viable solution for small vehicular segments. We also are in a position to share a set of benefits of battery swapping for stakeholders across the ecosystem. For users, it helps mimic the experience of existing fuel pumps. What this means is that somebody with an EV, with a discharged battery, can go to a battery swapping station and spend less than 90 seconds in swapping their discharged battery with a fully charged one. This would thereby eliminate the time required for charging, thereby keep vehicles on the road for longer durations, and thereby improve the remunerative opportunities for shared e-mobility drivers. Like I mentioned earlier, batteries constitute a significant portion of the cost of EVs. Thereby, in a battery swapping scenario, we have the opportunity to separate batteries from the electric vehicle and reduce the overall cost of EVs as well, and promote the adoption of EVs in a faster fashion. Battery swapping would also help improve battery life and reduce anxiety. It has added revenue to discoms and the power sector. It helps provide grid balancing solution in the form of normalizing the demand load and also provide energy storage to the discoms. To the energy operators, battery swapping helps improve the utilization of land and reduces fiscal burden. As you can see from the images here, battery swapping unit would only require a fraction of the real estate otherwise required to set up a dedicated park and charge solution. Swapping introduces new business opportunities, models, and entrepreneurial businesses. How this happens is that imagine a day when we could have mom and pop shops providing charging and swapping solutions. Imagine the day when there are so many e-rickshaw, e-taxi, e-bike taxi drivers and owners, all of who are leveraging this opportunity that shared and electric mobility is provided to them in order to increase their remunerative opportunities. Therefore, EVs in general and battery swapping in particular would help India create a pathway to global leadership in innovation. And this is where I would like to touch upon the role of the enabling role of the government as well. We know for a fact that the government of India has already laid the cards down in order to enable India become a global hotspot for electric mobility. Its tremendous vision has now percolated down to the states as well. So state governments too, on their part, are designing and implementing EV solutions, EV policies. These policies, we strongly believe, need to take an extremely sustainability approach across the value chain. Right from promoting the integration of renewable energy at source so that we have clean energy powering our electric vehicles, as well as thinking about urban mining in order to have raw materials needed for future electric vehicles, as well as thinking actively about disposal and recycling of batteries and electric vehicles would be the key. All these, ladies and gentlemen, are economic opportunities, are opportunities where MSMEs in the country, as well as small and large-scale startups could actually play an active role. We were again able to collaborate with the World Economic Forum and talk about India's EV policies at the state level. The last point I wish to touch upon is that just in the last couple of years, we've seen a tremendous surge in the number of EV startups. These are startups ranging from the area of manufacturing to rideshare and logistics. We even have EV startups that are run by women entrepreneurs in the manufacturing domain. We also have battery and energy operations being provided by EV startups in India. We, of course, also have startups that are leveraging IoT, telematics, AI, and helping better manage components and the value chain of the EV ecosystem. In the last 2 years alone, the startups have been able to raise as much as $500 million. This is only the disclosed investments in this space, and this is only by the 20 EV startups that I listed in the previous slide. So if only we had more actors coming together to promote this industry, we would in fact be creating and sort of expanding the India opportunity that electric mobility holds for us. This is my last slide. I believe that the confluence of this growing demand for shared, connected, and electric, along with enabling policy support that the government's already started giving us, in addition to the rising investments that the space is seeing, would be the mobility economy opportunity for India. Thank you.